Bjorn then takes off all of her equipment and weapons. All of her equipment is specialized for head-to-head combat. Now that Bjorn is looting her, he decides to talk, but before that, he destroys all of her limbs so she won't try anything funny. Then, he forces her to use armor change and loots all of her beginner equipment as well. She tells Bjorn that she will do anything, if he just lets her live. I know what many of you horny people are thinking, but control your horses. He is Bjorn, after all, our cold, calculating MC. He asks her why she attacked them. She says that her information has already spread throughout the Explorers Guild, so she wants to make sure no more information about her gets out. To prevent that, she plans to kill anyone who comes to the rupture. Bjorn then asks her why she opened this rupture. She tells him that she heard this is the only place where one can obtain the Heart of the Frost. She thought she wouldn't have any trouble since only 8th or 9th rank explorers were supposed to come here. Then she pauses, realizing something, and asks Bjorn how he knew that she was the one who opened the rupture. Bjorn realizes he made a mistake, but he refuses to acknowledge it and instead asks her what she's talking about. She then asks Bjorn if he is also a player. Bjorn keeps acting ignorant and instead asks her if she is an evil spirit. But she is sure now, and she starts crying, calling him Mister and begging for his help. She tells Bjorn that she just wants to go home. She keeps pleading, crying, and asking him to spare her, but Bjorn doesn't say a single word. Eventually, she gets angry at his silence, calling him a piece of shit, but Bjorn just calls her an evil spirit and kills her. His mentality stat increases by 1 for killing his first player. After killing another player for the first time, Bjorn didn't know what he felt. Was it sadness, excitement, or something else? But he knew that none of it mattered. It was something he had to do. After seeing Bjorn return, Misha smiled and walked toward him, asking how he was. She had been worried because he had taken so long. She had left Carlson to deal with an ice orc alone, and now Carlson was calling for help. Bjorn told Misha that she could kill it now, but she should try using her new skills while she was at it, and to finish it off quickly. Misha nodded. On the other hand, Carlson was on the verge of being killed by the ice orc when Misha used her skill to start attacking. She first sliced its wrists, and thanks to her skill, the ice orc received the frostbite status effect. It stopped the bleeding, but also prevented the wound from healing. Depending on the type of monster, this effect could be very useful. However, the biggest advantage of frostbite was that it restricted movement. Unfortunately, since the ice orc had high cold resistance, it only affected its wrist. A normal monster of the same rank would have taken frostbite damage up to its elbow. Bjorn told Misha to go for its neck this time. She jumped from behind, stabbed her dagger into the ice orc's neck, and then asked Bjorn if that was good enough. Bjorn checked. The damage had reached its brain. Satisfied, he decided to end his experiment. He then asked Misha if she was ready for the final fight. After that, he cracked the ice orc's head open. As soon as the ice orc died, the wolf boss Tyrant Tarnbus appeared. Tyrant Tarnbus had some special traits. First, he was 1.5 times bigger than others of his kind. He also had about twice the stats of a normal lycanthrope. On top of that, he wielded an ice club that maximized his damage and boosted the hypothermia status effect. However, Bjorn was confident he could finish him in under 10 seconds. Why? Because he had prepared for this moment. Bjorn used a lightning herb and a lightning scroll, significantly increasing his lightning damage for 10 seconds. And this guy's weakness was lightning. The lightning paralyzed Tyrant Tarnbus. But Tarnbus had a skill that cleared movement-restricting debuffs. However, since it only removed the restriction rather than granting immunity, he could still be paralyzed again. And Misha was already ready. With lightning bombs. She threw countless lightning bombs at Tarnbus, sending him into a state of unconsciousness. In this state, he was easy to deal with, just like how Bjorn used to handle monsters with Einar. They simply beat the boss to death with their lightning-imbued weapons. Carlson was shocked by what had just happened. They earned 3 experience points for defeating him and 3 more because he was a guardian. He also dropped his essence. Bjorn told Misha to consume it. As always, Misha was hesitant, but Bjorn reminded her that they had already agreed at the start. She would take the guardian essence. She was still hesitating. So Bjorn simply pushed her toward the essence, forcing her to absorb it. After it was done, Bjorn turned his attention to the bear guy and was surprised that he was still alive. The sword had pierced his heart. Barely able to speak, Bear Guy weakly asked for a potion from his bag. Misha and Carlson took out the best quality potion bottle from his bag. Misha warned him not to regret using it later. Bear Guy told them not to worry and just pour it. Misha poured the entire bottle onto his wound, but it didn't heal. Bear Guy told them to keep pouring, but Bjorn realized the blade must have been imbued with something that prevented healing and regeneration. Bear Guy then asked for an antidote, but Bjorn knew that wouldn't work against this kind of poison. The injury wasn't getting better, and the bleeding wouldn't stop. Then Misha suddenly remembered something. She asked Bjorn for a top-tier potion. Bjorn wasn't prepared for that request, but since it was Misha, he handed it over. Even with the top-tier potion and 5 advanced potions from Bear Guy, the wound only closed up a little. The poison must have been extremely powerful. A top-tier potion could even regenerate a severed limb, yet all it did for Bear Guy was provide basic first aid. After that, Bjorn gave Carlson his share of the loot. Carlson was shocked. It was more than what was promised. Bjorn told him to just take it, since he hadn't received any essence. In truth, Bjorn had given him extra so he would stay quiet about what had happened today. Bjorn told him that if he felt guilty for taking more than he was owed, he could make up for it by keeping quiet. But Misha was staring at Bjorn with an odd look, one that seemed proud. Bjorn felt nervous seeing that weird expression in her eyes. Meanwhile, Bear Guy finally woke up after Carlson left. Bear Guy said he was lucky to have survived. He knew full well how much Misha and Bjorn would have benefited if he had died. Then he told Bjorn that he would pay him back for the top-tier potion and asked how much it cost. Bjorn replied, 5 million stones will do. Bear Guy scoffed. It only costs 1 million stones for a top-tier potion. Bjorn shrugged. Is that so? Then I must have been scammed. Bear Guy smiled. Yes, the value of an item changes depending on the situation. But since Bear Guy didn't have that much money on him right now, he decided to pay Bjorn later. As collateral, he left behind one of his numbered items. This numbered item was called Necromancer's Arrogance. It could save its user's life 3 times if they were hit by a fatal attack. This item was the reason Bear Guy had survived. Bjorn considered keeping it in exchange for 5 million stones. But before he could even say anything, Bear Guy suddenly called Bjorn by his real full name, Jandel's son, Bjorn. Then he warned Bjorn not to even think about keeping it. Misha was shocked. How do you know his name? But Bear Guy didn't answer. Instead, he simply said, I won't forget this kindness. Then he left. Bjorn told Misha they should go, but he started walking in the opposite direction of the portal. Misha frowned. Why are you going the wrong way? Bjorn glanced back at her. Come with me. There's something I need to take. And with that, they entered the ice cave once again.